Last time on the Ozempic Diaries.
Hey there, just thought I'd do a quick Ozempic check-in. It is day 44 in my journey. I have done, hang on a second, 7 doses. So 4 at 0.25 milligrams and 3 at 0.5. I'm down about 4 pounds. So, that's not too bad. It's my last dose of the 0.5. Next week, I'll be up at the 1 milligrams. I do feel like Ozempic right now is acting as my support system, and it's not allowing me to overeat. That's one thing that I will say, I'm not overeating at all.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Abby's Kitchen. Today we'll be catching back up with my friend and business partner Ginger on month 3 of our Ozempic journey. And today we'll be discussing rapid weight loss, cooking without an appetite, transparency, and Ozempic for food noise. A quick disclaimer here that this video includes numbers, calories, extreme weight loss discussion. Also, please note that the individual in this series is not my client, so any suggestions are for general knowledge and education purposes only. Also, a reminder that the purpose of the series isn't to promote Ozempic or weight loss in general. Is to counter a lot of the myths and disinformation about Ozempic with honesty, transparency, and evidence-based practice. Everyone's needs are going to be unique and should always be discussed one-on-one with your healthcare provider. So to quickly just catch us all up, Ginger did a month of 0.25 milligrams, then a month at 0.5, and in this video, she'll be doing the 1 milligram dose for a month and starting the 1.5 milligram dose. So in other words, we are finally reaching the clinical dosage. Now, before we get talking to Ginger, let's take a look at some of her video diaries.
This is my second dose at 1 milligram. I will say that I've lost another couple of pounds. This past week, I felt like it was the first week that's really kind of, I've been looking at food. I'm like, man, it doesn't really impress me much. The one thing I will say that when I took the 1 milligram dose is that I've been exhausted. I've never been so tired in my life.
So Ozempic exhaustion is quirky. It actually apparently doesn't affect everyone and is still considered a more rare side effect. It is probably because a lot of people who are on Ozempic also have high blood sugars. So if you take it for weight loss instead while having healthy normal blood sugar levels, then it's possible that it can lower your blood sugar lower than what you're used to, and it can cause temporary lethargy as your body just kind of gets used to it. I actually had the same experience when I was put on metformin for IVF because my blood sugars were normal before I took the drug, so I ended up getting these really uncomfortable lows as a not so great side effect. So again, as uncomfortable as it is, this should level out over time.
It is my third dose of the 1 milligram today, and I'm a little bit confused and a little bit sad because I didn't see any progress this week, and I worked out every single day except yesterday, including 3 of those days being double headers. I'm getting a little concerned. I gained a pound this week. I'm still eating. I'm just not thinking about food all the time, which I guess is good. It's so hard not to see the progress that I want to see. So I don't know.
So this is why weekly weigh-ins aren't always representative of progress, especially without any kind of professional one-on-one guidance. If I were Ginger's RD and I was doing these measurements and weigh-ins, I would also be looking at these blips in the context of what else might be going on that day or week. So for example, where are you in your cycle? Did you eat a very salty meal the night before? If you were to weigh yourself in a few days, would it be different? I really encourage people not to get too hung up on the individual numbers on individual days. The fact that she's not thinking about food all the time feels like huge progress to me. Even if it resulted in very little weight loss this week, just imagine how much space that opens up in your mind and life for things that bring you joy. And over time, as you're thinking and obsessing less over food, the weight very likely will come down.
I also, after the last conversation with Abby, I don't think I ate very well. So I went to Farm Boy, which is my favorite go-to, and picked up pre-made salads for this week, some salmon, some veg. We'll see how that goes. I'm just not in the mood to cook.
Listen, I'm rarely in the mood to cook now that I've got kids who are just gonna chuck it on the ground, so no judgment from me on that. But I do think that obviously losing interest in food and reducing the drive to eat is absolutely gonna have the side effect of reducing the drive to do the labor of making the food. Like, the food is kind of the fun part, but we still need to nourish ourselves even when we don't really feel like it. So some other really easy, convenient options include rotisserie chicken, canned tuna, frozen cooked shrimp, frozen egg bites, smoothie freezer packets, frozen turkey burgers, pre-cooked whole grain pouches, or just add water oats. There's also now a ton of grocery store meal kits where you can just kind of like dump everything into the pan, so at least you don't have to do the mental labor of deciding what to make.
1 ounce of cheese. That's breakfast. Well, I should have more. Don't hate me.
Ginger! She knew I was gonna have to say something about this, and I will to her. But I get that old diet habits die hard. And Ginger's probably spent a lot of her life putting cheese on a scale. But the goal for us on Ozempic is to no longer need to track or meticulously weigh portions. So we need to start to get used to feeling and honoring those new hunger and fullness cues. And that means kind of going in blind. So I would personally just kind of cut a few slices of cheese and simply eat until satiated. See what that feeling feels like. And obviously we want to tackle one thing at a time, and that letting go piece is key. But once we've got that down, then of course we can think about turning it into a hunger crushing combo by adding an egg or two and some toast and fruit. So I really think that the experience of just letting go of some of those old diet crutches is the really important piece here. You gotta trust Ozempic to do its job, because as Ginger has said herself, it's like her little helper, her little best friend in her back pocket. Give your body the chance to relearn some of these skills, because that is what makes Ozempic different from any other diet you've ever been on.
I'm still at 1 milligram. It will be my last dose at 1 milligram. Next week, I will be going up to 1.5. I saw a pretty significant weight loss this week, even though I feel like I ate, which is pretty good. So I was down 2.4 pounds in the last week. In terms of symptoms, still really tired, still have the diarrhea, not really any nausea, although there was one day this past week where I just really, I don't know if it was just that I wasn't hungry or was nauseous, but I started drinking bone broth when that was happening. And I actually think it's really helping the whole process. So upping my water intake. So this will be the first thing I have this morning. Really taking coffee out of my diet, which is crazy. I'm upping my water and I'm adding in bone broth.
Okay, I love this for us. Cutting down on the coffee, as we discussed, more water and some bone broth. This 100% makes sense to me. There's nothing magical about bone broth, but it's probably helping with symptom management because A, broth is mainly water, so again, it's adding lots of hydration, and fluids are also better tolerated than solids because they don't require a lot of digestion when you're feeling nauseous. And B, bone broth contains electrolytes, which may be depleted from diarrhea, and also protein, which has been shown to help improve nausea symptoms better than any kind of like really high fat or higher sugar foods. So this is great when you're not feeling your best and you need a little nourishment. Bone broth is a great way to kind of like stimulate that appetite and get a little bit of fluids and nourishment in.
Canadians, in case you didn't know this, as you get up past the 1 milligram dose, which is the therapeutic dose for diabetes, and you go to 1.5 or 2 milligrams, we do not yet have the 8 milligram pen in Canada. So I went to upgrade or up my dose to the 1.5 this week, and I had to pay for 2 pens. So that took me over $500 for this month. I've only budgeted $270, which is the cost to me out of pocket in order to sustain this. I guess I'm gonna have to now wrap my head until that 8 milligram pen comes in about that extra fee.
That is a lot. Like, Americans, let me know, is it better or worse for you? Because at least I think it's somewhat covered by our healthcare. But yeah, even $270 a month is a lot of a commitment, especially when we're thinking this is a lifelong commitment.
Now at the 1 milligram, I'm really starting to see a little bit more of a drastic change. Case in point, as of last week, I'm down 12 pounds and I've lost a total of 12 inches, just over 12 inches.
I know Ginger was pretty worried that it wasn't working for her, or maybe it wasn't working fast enough. There's always so much going on in our head when we start these kind of medications. So, there's definitely some folks who will only need to take 0.5 milligrams long term, but most folks will probably need between 1 to 2 milligrams to have the desired effect. Now, I know Ginger has a lot to update us on, so let's get chatting. All right, Ginger, so nice to see you again.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, so first things first, you tell everyone as a quick little recap why you're doing this and why we're even doing this together.
Just very quickly, on both sides of my family, we suffer from obesity, diabetes, heart issues. After I went through quite a lot of hormone treatment for egg freezing, and I had some surgery, I had my gallbladder removed, and I had COVID for about a year. I was stagnant, I couldn't move, and I just put on too much weight that was healthy for me, to the point where I didn't want to move, and that's not like me. So I talked to my doctor, we consulted with internal medicine, we consulted with the weight loss clinic in Ottawa, and basically the answer was, if I go on Ozempic now, not only will it help me, drop some of this weight, probably a little bit quicker than I would be able to on my own, but it would be a preventative measure not to get diabetes and heart issues. So that's kind of the research that's coming out now, is that it is quite a life-altering drug, especially for those who suffer or who have family histories of diabetes and heart issues.
We've watched a few of your clips, but tell me, first of all, how are you feeling? Symptom-wise, how are you feeling today? Because things are always changing.
Well, today I'm actually feeling great, considering I went to a wedding last night. So I'm alive and well, and I didn't overdrink. Actually, that's one of the symptoms or the side effects of this drug, is you kind of lose the desire for a lot of things you were previously you were jonesing for. So things like alcohol, things like sweets, it's just, my desire for those have been drastically cut back. So I feel great. So I never have these wild hangovers anymore, which is amazing. And I can maybe have 2 glasses of wine max now, and then I'm just tap me out, I'm out, I'm done.
Yep.
Bye.
That is amazing. What a feeling to
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And so tell me a little about progress wise, where were you at since you've lost weight, and done some numbers here?
Today is actually the 4-month mark. So I've been on this journey for 4 months now. So I will be starting 2 milligrams today. I know I'm nervous, because this is the dose where everybody says this is where they experience symptoms. So I'm looking forward to our next chat to see if I actually have the symptoms that everybody's experiencing at this dose. But I've gone really gradually, so hoping for the best. But it's been 4 months. I've lost 19 pounds.
Wow. Ginger.
Yeah. This 1.5 dose has been the catalyst of that real no, I don't want this. I'm going to have a cup of bone broth and, some lactose-free cottage cheese and an egg instead. That's been it's mind-blowing to me how it's changed really what I'm craving.
Wow.
So I'm very pleased. I'm very, very pleased with the results. It's been slow, and because it's been slow, I've yo-yo dieted my whole life. Preach to anybody watching. We're in this together. And I will say, when you lose weight fast, so I've tried Atkins, I've tried it all, low carb, all these things. When you lose weight fast, you tend to be skinny fat, and whereas because I've been losing it quite a bit slower and just on a really nice pace. I've also, I think I've mentioned this, I work out a lot. I'm doing so much Pilates. I'm probably at Pilates 4 to 6 times a week.
Wow.
And I'm playing tennis. I do know that I have to get my cardio up in order to, but the problem is when I get my cardio up, I get hungry again. So I haven't really invested a lot in the cardio piece, so I don't know how Ozempic will affect that hunger. So stay tuned, because I had kind of earmarked September as being the month, just giving myself, I needed to get some weight off so that it didn't impact my knees.
Right, you've said that.
Yeah. So now that I've gotten this 19 pounds off, I'm ready to get back on the bike, get back out and run, things like that. So I will let you know if that impacts my hunger overall.
And that, I was going to ask you about non-weight victories, but just the idea of you being able to get back on the bike and run, which are things that I know bring you joy, that's a huge non-weight victory.
Huge.
Huge. I know. I was feeling because you're smiling.
I love it. Here I am out of town, and I'm researching. I'm okay, well, it's Toronto, so there's every every gym class and possible. So I'm like, okay, what can I do tonight at 6:30?
There's so many.
I'm so pumped. That is a huge non-scale victory for me.
Wow.
Huge. And the inches too. Like, listen, I'm fitting into like smaller pants that I've just been they've been in my dresser or my closet just waiting to come out again. And I couldn't believe it. Like when I put them on, I'm like, oh my God, here we are again. I was so scared to put them on. I was so scared to put them on.
Well, I mean, it must feel really good to be hitting these milestones. And I know you mentioned, you're feeling really good today. Tell me about some of the things that have helped manage your symptoms. I know you've talked about water and bone broth. Yeah. Amazing. Now that your symptoms are kind of subsiding, what is your diet looking like right now? Other than the lone piece of cheese, Ginger, because I was gonna talk to you about that. Girl.
This is the problem. So I get into these periods where I'm like so focused on the food and the diet aspect of things, and that's where I'm kind of like, stop it, because that's what I don't want. And that's why we talked about this drug, and that's why we wanted to go on it, because I wanted my body, my brain to make those decisions without me having to take the scale out and weigh it.
Yes.
Yeah, I was doing that a lot. It was almost like I was inspired because like I was losing the weight, and I'm like, okay, well now I don't want to like overeat my calories. And here's the thing. So in the comment section, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to recap, what we were going through and why we were doing this. And I want everybody to know, and you want everybody to know the situation. And we want to, just a little playback. But a lot of people were like, you're eating too many calories if you're not losing weight. And it was like, oh, maybe that is it, and that's why it was reading those comments in a sense that got me kind of to take out the scale again and to focus on it. But I put it away as soon as I videotaped that one. I'm like, oh my God, here I am doing this. I got to videotape this, show her, because I've been doing it a couple of times and I don't want to do it.
This is a good reminder for folks who, just pretend like you've got me watching and I'm going to tell you to hunger crushing combo it, friends. But also a really good reminder that, just so everybody knows, the clips you see are such a small snippet of your real life every single day. And that goes for what you see influencers post as well. If you feel possessed to leave comments in the comment section of other people's, recipes or what days to say, oh yeah, no wonder you're fat, you ate a donut. Have a think that you don't know what they ate earlier on in the day. You don't know what they ate the next day. You don't know what they ate over the course of the week. So you really can't say you're not tracking their calories. You're not their MyFitnessPal app. So just keep in the mind that it doesn't tell this whole story what we see online. So Ginger, be kind to yourself, and yeah, just know that the purpose for this drug is to be able to reprogram your brain so that you don't have to make those kinds of calculated decisions or lean on these external indicators of your fullness. So in one of the clips that I watched of yours, you mentioned that people are starting to notice your weight loss. And you said, one of your tennis partners said that she can tell that you've been working out, which you obviously have. She can see you doing it. Do you ever tell people that you're on Ozempic? Or are you open, when they comment on your weight loss? What do you say?
Yes. So I am being very open because I realize that I am getting some assistance. And because I don't want to go into the trap of dieting and the trap of you look good, so that equates to your value and working hard. Like, I'm really trying not to go there. I don't say, oh, thanks, it's Ozempic, but I say, thank you so much. And if we go into a bigger conversation about what I'm doing, then I will tell them, because I really think it's not just Ozempic. I'm sorry, it's not. Yes, it's helping with the brain and the gut connection, and it's really helping curb those cravings that I'm so used to want, the pasta, the sweets. Oh my God, the sweets. It's just gone. And that's the radical difference for me. So I am being open and honest about it. I think it's important because I think if anybody wants to make a change in their life, I think knowing that there are tools, but not crutches, is really important.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I always say, I don't think anyone owes anyone an explanation or information when it comes to their body or their health, and you, Ginger, you're not an influencer that's out there coming on Instagram saying like, oh, look at me, I lost 50 pounds by doing this program and you can buy it from me from $199, etc., etc. Like that to me is unethical. That's kind of like the Ali Larder liposuction gate and Legally Blonde situation where, you know, they're trying to sell you on their body as their business card when perhaps they had plastic surgery or in this case are using Ozempic. But I applaud you for coming out here and being open with everyone on this journey to try to help to destigmatize these things, which at the end of the day is I think really important, that we need to destigmatize medication and we need to destigmatize people in larger body taking efforts to improve their health if that's what they choose to do, and making choices about their own body and what feels good to them.
Exactly. And you know, there's the opposite argument, Abby, I think we've spoken about this as well, is there's the opposite argument that, you know, if we're trying to destigmatize what this drug could do, what about people saying, oh, you're overweight, just take Ozempic? Like, we don't want to create that either. So I'm actually making a conscious effort that when I see somebody who looks fantastic, I'm not commenting on their body anymore because I don't want to imply anything. So I'm saying you look so happy. Like,
I love that.
You look so happy.
I love that. That's actually a general rule of mine. I just generally do not comment on people's bodies, whether they look different, whether they look the same, whatever it may be. Comment, I like your dress. I like your purse. I like, you know, you look super happy. You know, you're glowing, you know, whatever it may be. There's something there that they can take from it whatever they want, but you're not specifically adding fuel to that fire because we never know why someone's body looks the way that it does. We don't know if they've lost weight because of illness. We don't know if they've lost weight because of sadness or disordered eating, etc. We never want to reinforce that. We know that criticism doesn't help motivate people, that making them feel shamed about their body doesn't make them want to exercise or eat healthier. It typically does the opposite. It drives them further into whatever behaviors landed them there in the first place. So that's just a general rule of thumb to everyone. Keep your opinions of people's bodies to themselves. I think when you really think about it, it's like, why are you paying such close attention to my body anyway? Like, that's sus. So anyways, that's how I always think about it. I'm like, it's kind of gross. So I think that's good for everyone. Now,
so two sides to the coin, you know, two sides to the story. We'll see what happens in a year from now. Right. I wish celebrities who are 140 pounds weren't taking it to get to the vanity 115, 120. You know, unless they're dealing with PCOS.
Right.
Or a history of diabetes, or a history of heart disease, unless they're trying to treat something proactively.
Right, which we'll never know. So it's really not up to us to make criticisms or judgments in general.
You're right. I just think the media has kind of run rampant with this storyline, and it's doing a disservice to all of us.
Totally.
Yeah. It's been really good for Nova. Yeah. The company that creates has been huge.
The media typically doesn't do us much good. Let's be honest. So I want to actually get to some of the comments and questions that I saw come up in the last video. And there was actually a lot of comments about this idea of food noise. So there was one person who said, the absence of food noise that I've experienced on Ozempic has been worth its weight in gold. I didn't realize how much I'm exhausted myself mentally thinking about food. I was like, is this what it's like to be a normal person? It's so helpful. And this to me, I don't know, Ginger, I know you've experienced this. This seems like such a huge non-weight victory. Give me your thoughts. Huge, eh?
Actually, I'm going to put this in another way for people who may not have the food noise: anxiety. Until you realize that sense of worry is actually a disconnect, you know, anxiety is the perfect way to describe what the food noise is. So very similar thing. I remember asking friends, I'm like if you said the wrong thing to someone, do you not worry about that for 5 days? And they were like, no. That's when I knew something was wrong with me.
Same. When I talked to my husband about some of my thoughts and I realized how different I am, I'm like, oh, not everyone stays up late at night ruminating over a simple conversation with a stranger. Okay.
Same thing with the food noise. And I have both. So yeah. Yay, me. But no, the food noise, when that being gone, it's so true what this person said, because that mental exhaustion is real. You get it with anxiety, you get it with food noise. I mean, I used to wake up thinking about food, where like it's almost like this, I don't know if it was that mentality of scarcity, like where's my next meal going to come from? Am I going to eat lunch? Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to plan my day? Okay, what's the work back schedule? You know, how am I going to get, come on.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Are you hungry? Eat a banana.
Yeah.
You know, get an egg, you know.
Totally.
But I never had that.
And you know, there was another really interesting question about food noise. So Aaron asked, should Ozempic be available for everyone who has food noise and who can't eat intuitively and who maybe are not living in a larger body? I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Ginger, but I will say that obviously this is ultimately a question for doctors and researchers in this field. From my perspective as a dietitian and also someone who has anxiety like you and have experienced a lot of psych drugs and things like that, I think with all medications, there are risks and benefits here. So weight loss may be a benefit to someone, but it may be a risk to another person. I know society always thinks of weight loss as this like good thing, but it wouldn't be a good thing for me, for example. Like I wouldn't see that as a benefit. So typically, folks with food noise from like reward system disruptions do tend to gain weight, whereas some folks have food noise because of caloric restriction. So the former may be a candidate, while the latter, it would be contraindicated. So again, I think that it's possible, but I think that would be something that you'd have to discuss one-on-one with your doctor to weigh those risks and benefits.
Totally. And I'm not a doctor, but when I play the scenarios in my head and even my personal journey to where I had to go to actually feel the food noise stop, maybe somebody in a smaller body only needs 0.25 for the food noise, but not the weight. Like maybe the weight loss doesn't happen there.
Right.
You know, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But there was a study that came out, Abby, and I think we talked about this one as well, but it was, did scientists just discover the cure for addiction? They're tackling these three things because this is what, you know, I think it's the food noise, alcohol, and smoking. So apparently those are three things that have most people who start Ozempic have stopped doing. I do wonder if they're going to start tampering with it, maybe so that there is no weight loss component. I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to see how this technology can be applied to other comorbidities and things like that, because yes, there's definitely a lot of overlap here. And I've got a question for you about that, Ginger. You know, obviously you came into this desiring weight loss and wanting to reduce your genetic risk of diabetes and chronic disease. But if you were not to lose any weight on this drug, would reducing the food noise be worth some of the side effects and cost and everything else associated with taking Ozempic? Would there be any benefit to you even without that weight loss piece?
That's a great question. I think, yes, in the sense that the mental exhaustion is just gone. In the sense that sometimes now I have to go to a menu and really think about what I'm eating instead of just enjoying what might be good. In that sense, maybe not. Maybe I wouldn't want to take it because now I do have to really think, oh, is that fried? Oh, does that have dairy? Oh, that's really going to affect me, you know, like, which is fine. And I actually, I feel much better having a salad with grilled chicken. Like I feel that much better. So, hi, thanks for all those tips, you know?
Yeah.
Shocker. I think if it allowed me not to gain more weight and to just be neutral and just live, then yes, I think it's a worthwhile tool. So long as I wasn't overeating and not gaining a lot of it. Because the important thing for me, obviously, is to take the weight off my knees so that I can move.
Right. And I have a really interesting fear in this space from John and Stacy. They said, my fear with stigma is that people will start to say, oh, just go on Ozempic to anyone that they perceive to be unhealthy or overweight. It will be yet another way of blaming and shaming people for being overweight. Personal choice is important and I support body autonomy and all of us choosing what's healthy for us. But I feel this is going to set us back in the body acceptance movement and society moving towards allowing us to all be different. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think we covered this, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
we did.
We talked about the sort of like, so John and Stacey, you kind of just nailed what we were talking about.
And I even talked about this back in my original Ozempic video when I was kind of just sharing my in the moment fears and hesitations about Ozempic. You know, I am scared that when I see already thin folks who maybe have normal blood sugars and healthy body weights take Ozempic, then our perception of what a healthy weight looks like or what healthy looks like, again, becomes even more skewed than I think it already is. I think, you know, for one, we can't we can't look at someone and determine if they are healthy. That dichotomy, it's going to become even more black and white in people's minds. And I think, as we've already established, this drug is very expensive, And so of course, this opportunity is going to be limited to folks who are financially able to access it. And that is unfair in a lot of ways, because then again, we are granting people the ability to have health or to look a certain way and therefore be not judged by the populace who have ideas about what is healthy and what is not healthy, or what's a healthy look, is going to be limited to those who can afford it. That said, as we just established, I think there are a lot of people who are prone to food noise and other reward system disruptions for whom a drug like Ozempic that helps to silence that noise can basically get them their life back. So yeah, there's just a lot of interesting studies and research emerging specifically about Ozempic for these reward system disruptions, like you said, addiction and things like that. And also for Ozempic's wider benefits for improving mood and well-being and just ability to perform daily activities. So I will never stand in the way of somebody being able to access happiness, whatever that may look like. I never want to speak out against that, because that's going to be different for everyone. Of course, that's going to come with disadvantages for some populations, but I don't think that means that it's wrong or immoral for people to have access to some of these medications that do change lives.
Totally. And I think John and Stacey's comment, I think we have to keep that in our back pocket and keep coming back to that as more studies come out, as we keep talking about this, as we continue to keep our finger on the pulse of what people are saying. I'm reading all the Reddit threads, there's Wegovy weight loss, there's an Ozempic thread, there's lots of really good threads to go to for support and to just read up on what people are experiencing. And because I think the body acceptance movement and body positivity movement could be at risk. It is very, very real. However, as much as I want to accept how I look, it doesn't necessarily make me super happy. So, and I know that's a societal problem, and I just don't know how to fix it other than feeling better about myself from the inside out.
Right.
So that's why I like the approaching it. You look happy, or you look like you're glowing. It's going to be a struggle. But I think we should keep revisiting this comment, because I think it's a really, really important comment. And I think, you could come at this a myriad of ways. And Abby, I never even thought about the wealth disparity issue. Wealth is health, or health is wealth. To kind of was sitting back when you were saying that, I'm like, oh God, I never thought about that. I mean, it is much more cost effective to get the drug in Canada than it is to get it in the States. And yes, we have an obesity problem in Canada, but there's a huge obesity problem in the States. I mean, we can't solve everybody's problems. Nobody can solve, a drug can't solve everybody's problems, but I do wonder what the impact of the drug could have on healthcare overall. In Canada, we cover so many costs related to obesity and malnutrition as people get older, like diabetes, like heart issues. And I do wonder, if we took preventative stance, what that could look like for the overall cost savings of our healthcare system. Now, this is Canada specific, obviously, because we pay into our healthcare system, and it's we have free, it's not free, it comes out of our income taxes. So anybody who says free healthcare is not free, but we do have a healthcare system that is available to all.
I think it's quite obvious that socioeconomic status does play a role in weight discrepancies and health discrepancies across the nation, in Canada, in the United States, in a lot of these Western countries. So I think whether or not this is going to make those discrepancies even greater, or in other ways possibly close the gap, we're just going to have to find out. Yes, this drug has been around for a long time, but it hasn't been used by so many people at the same time in history, specifically for weight loss. So we're going to have to kind of see what happens and how it affects our economy, how it affects public health, all of those things. So yes, we're keeping our eyes on that, and also how it affects mental health too, and the mental health of the general population. And I'm sure there will be research coming out about that, because we always evaluate the mental health risks of drugs, and this has become such a big one. This is not like a drug we've ever had access to before, where it's just something, somebody who needs that takes takes that drug. No, this is like, people know what Ozempic is.
Exactly. Just ask your doctor.
Just ask your doctor.
I sometimes think back, I'm like, I wonder what those voluptuous women in those Renaissance paintings think about our generation.
They probably think they have all this money and they're eating less. Like, it makes no sense. They're thinking, that's what the peasants did. They didn't eat very much. We want to feast.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, society is backwards when the healthy food is double the price of the cheap, the processed food.
Again, and this is partially why we see these discrepancies in health in folks in lower socioeconomic status groups. And so, when we're adding a drug that costs upwards of $1,000 a month to the equation, never mind healthy fruits and vegetables, they certainly are not going to be able to afford that. But again, let's see where this goes. Things are always changing when it comes to price, access, all of those things. If we see that a drug like this could make such a huge impact on our healthcare, then it may be in the financial interest of the government to subsidize and things like that. So again, we're going to keep our eyes. We're not going to know that for another year or 2, 5 years, etc. So let's keep our fingers on that. Ginger, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I know it's so helpful for so many people who are following along. Folks, please be kind this time. As you can see, your words have impact. Let's cheer Ginger on and cheer others on in the comments who are going through their own journeys. And I really appreciate all of you guys sharing your thoughts, your tips, your struggles in the comments as well. And Ginger, keep it up. 2 milligrams today. Good luck.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing about it. And I really do hope that the side effects aren't too bad for you. And you continue to have that smile on your face. That's what we want to see.
Oh, thanks, Abby. This was great. And I'm really looking forward to our next chat. And that John and Stacey comment is going to stay at the back of my head for a long time.
Always, always. I think as we consume Ozempic content in the media, through celebrity culture, I think we always have to have that in the back of our mind as a bit of a threat, It's a bit of a threat to all of us, and it harms all of us when we let that become the narrative that this is what a healthy body looks like. So just keep that in mind, everyone. I definitely am, and I think you should too as well, Ginger.
Will do.
All right, Ginger, thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye. And on that note, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you next time on Abby's Kitchen. Bye.